Adam Bowler had this interview here, and they were talking about the prospect of a deal with Hamas. And, you know, you're going and talking with them, and Donald Trump is having these statements against them. And, you know, the host is asking him, don't you think some people might be upset about the fact that you're going there and, you know, you're talking with these guys? You know, they might not really be happy about it. Now, the response was very interesting. And many people are actually starting to speak about it now, including in Israel. They're criticizing the United States, some people, but on the other hand, there is progress on the ground. There are indications on the ground that there is indeed progress. Okay, so let's hear exactly what Adam Bowler said. Here is the video.
Understand why Netanyahu, Dermer, others might be upset.
I do understand. I spoke with Ron, and I'm sympathetic. He has someone that he doesn't know well, making direct contact with Hamas. Maybe I would see them and say, look, they don't have horns growing out of their head. They're actually guys like us. They're pretty nice guys. So he doesn't know me, and there are big stakes. He lives in a country where if it sets certain precedents, then it will hurt or help a lot of other people. So I understand the consternation and the concern, and I wasn't upset. At the same time, we're the United States. We're not an agent of Israel. We have specific interests at play.
Understand
Again.
Why Netanyahu, Dermer, others might be upset.
I do understand. I spoke with Ron, and I'm sympathetic. He has someone that he doesn't know well, making direct contact with Hamas. Maybe I would see them and say, look, they don't have horns growing out of their head. They're actually guys like us. They're pretty nice guys. So he doesn't know me, and there are big stakes. He lives in a country where if it sets certain precedents, then it will hurt or help a lot of other people. So I understand the consternation and the concern, and I wasn't upset. At the same time, we're the United States. We're not an agent of Israel. We have specific interests at play.
Nice guys, we're the US, we're not an agent from Israel. He understands if these people get upset because of his direct talks. This is Adam Bowler, the negotiator of the United States, speaking with Hamas directly without including Israel. Israel leaked the report of him negotiating with Hamas to hinder the prospect of reaching a deal. But again, it's happening on the ground. And like we always say, look at what's happening on the ground at the end of the day between the United States and all of the other countries involved and the developments in Gaza and what they build and what happens later on. So this is coming, but it's coming in a context. What's the context? Well, the context is there are now talks inside of Israel that there is progress. There is a progress in relation to the actual ceasefire, and that we actually might have a deal being done on Wednesday. How did it begin? Well, certain reports said the Israeli delegation, their powers that they go with to Doha to continue the negotiations will be discussed in the cabinet meeting. Now, it has been confirmed that they are going on Wednesday. Usually, when there's a report in Israel that says their powers are going to be discussed in the cabinet, that means that Israel is intending to give them powers to close the deal and continue. Because one of the main problems of the Israeli delegation was, are we going to get the powers to go and agree with them? Netanyahu sent them stripped of powers. They didn't really have any powers to get a deal. Many of them were complaining about that. And Haaretz even reported that we could potentially have a deal, an agreement closed on Wednesday, and some of the Israeli prisoners of war going back on Saturday or Sunday. Now, the big question is, what does it include? We're not having a lot of information about that. But we do know that Hamas said we're not extending the ceasefire unless we're talking about a phase 2 and the ending of the war. Some of the reports in Israel are saying that, yeah, well, we actually might reach a deal. Certain reports saying that ceasefire, 5 to 10 years, the Israeli Broadcasting Authority, as well, certain reports about this prospect of a long deal as well, meaning, well, the talks between the United States directly and Hamas clearly pushed things forward slightly without too many indications about the prospects, about the contents of the actual ceasefire agreement, similar to what we had with the first phase, with phase 1 of the ceasefire agreement. Why? So that it doesn't look too much damaging on Israel. So it doesn't look too bad on Israel, because Benjamin Netanyahu wouldn't be able to handle it. And he would risk certain interests that he has internally, including popularity, including calculations, everything to do with internal politics inside of Israel. There is something else that is indicating that we actually might see some interesting developments. Okay. And then, of course, Hamas, they also said, Tahir al-Nouna, one of their senior figures, he said we actually might release Aidan Alexander, his name is, who's a dual national, in the next phase of the ceasefire, but indicating that this ceasefire will be a long-term ceasefire. So, what happened inside of Israel? This is the very important bit. What happened in Israel is Smotrich, Bezalel Smotrich, he is suspected of getting information from the Israeli army directly without notifying the relevant bodies, without due diligence. Benjamin Netanyahu was blamed of that previously. He managed to get himself out of it. However, it's very interesting, and I will tell you why, that this report is coming now. Smotrich reportedly suspected of receiving information from an IDF mole. And guess what? He confirms that he actually did, not long after. He doesn't have a problem admitting it. Later on, he said this, proudly admitting being fed military intel outside accepted channels. This is not something light, by the way. This is something very, very dangerous. Why? Because it's not in his authority. He is a finance minister. He is a member of the war cabinet. And now he's confirming, and his excuse is, I meet them in the synagogue. My synagogue is full of people who go and fight, and I get information. But the information that the Israelis were talking about in this report here, suspected of receiving information from an IDF mole, didn't talk about some random information like he was coming to the meetings with full reports. All right. Why Smotrich? Because Smotrich was the main problem. Because Smotrich was the main obstacle in going into phase 2. So there could be an attempt happening in front of us of Benjamin Netanyahu framing something against Bezalel Smotrich to make him out appear to as if he's appearing to be the bad guy, so that he can go into phase 2. Whether as an attempt to expel him completely from the government with a good excuse, or to use this as leverage against Bezalel Smotrich so he can accept the phase 2 of the ceasefire and remain in the government. Do you understand what Netanyahu is doing? This could be used as leverage against him. And now Benjamin Netanyahu could go into the ceasefire agreement to tell him, if you don't accept and sign that you will remain in the government up until the end of my term, then I will take further action against you, and you will be facing hell in Israeli courts for the next several years, because you've done something that puts the country's risk and national security at a very high risk. That's something very dangerous. Potentially, that's why he later on came up with this, a very rushed confirmation saying, yeah, and I speak with people to let the people think that he has nothing to hide and that he gets this information from people in the synagogue. This move is primarily made by Benjamin Netanyahu against Bezalel Smotrich. Do you know why? Because there is no other reason to publish this report now. all of the cabinet meetings that took place with all of these piles of reports, they happened a very long time ago. In the past almost 50 days, there was no constant combat inside of Gaza. There was ceasefire. Why bring this information now? It's because he's bringing this information now at a very sensitive period to apply pressure on Bezalel Smotrich to accept phase 2 of the ceasefire. Meaning, Benjamin Netanyahu could lay at rest. On Wednesday, the delegation can go to Doha. They can sign. The Americans are already speaking with Hamas, calling them nice guys, and we're no agents of Israel. And Benjamin Netanyahu would shut up, and Smotrich would shut up, and will continue with the ceasefire agreement. That is a very important bit. Now, if we talk about the actual delegation, well, the delegation is still made out of the same people that Benjamin Netanyahu appointed. Who are they? They are Ron Dermer, primarily, alongside the other delegation. He's now trying to sack the head of the Shabak, Ronen Bar, and he is sending Ron Dermer, but not to delay everything, but just to actually get this deal done. Get this deal done and move on. Very interesting days ahead, and we will see what happens on Wednesday when things go forward, especially in Doha. Now, Hamas, from their end, they confirmed that they're already there, meaning that Hamas now officially entered. Hamas officially entered the negotiations again. They're no longer playing a part that is outside or anything of the sort. They are in, they're talking, and they are interested to get more out of this deal, especially with the feedback coming from the United States and with the fact that the United States is saying that, oh yeah, you know, we have these positive talks and these positive vibes with Hamas and nice guys and all of that talk.